Grace and peace, Black family. This is Vicky Dillard. Grace and peace, Black family. This is Vicky Dillard, your sister with the curly braids. And I want you to get ready for the new Master Elements project, The Spear and the Shield.
This vaccine isn't experimental. It's like a dandelion. You overlook it for their weird science.
DJ RP Beats and Sincere Love the God have taken this time during the pandemic to carefully craft the soundtrack to Black empowerment with hot tracks like God Mine, featuring Sadat X of the legendary group Brand Nubians.
We never die. I made an ancestral shrine. Let's see what's in the God's mind. Listen, I'm a law in the person of Sincere Love the God. That mean your arms too short like Tar Anthony Shaw.
God painted me black.
God painted me black. Thanks for that. I'm a original man.
A letter to Dr. Francis Cress Welsing.
I say to the ancestors, dear Dr. Francis Cress Wilson, I just wanted to thank you for all the lessons you left us. So yes, I'm more than grateful.
And the controversial song Buck Breaking God today.
Why every black show they gotta have a transgender? Either I'm crazy or there's gotta be a planned agenda.
Get ready, Black family. This is a much needed project. This is The Spear and the Shield.
In this crooked game of power politics here in America, the Negro, namely the race problem, integration, civil rights issue, are all nothing but tools used by the whites who call themselves liberals against another group of whites who call themselves conservatives, either to get into power or to retain power. Among whites here in America, the political teams are no longer divided into Democrats and Republicans. The whites who are now struggling for control of the American political throne are divided into liberal and conservative camps. The white liberals from both parties cross party lines to work together toward the same goal. And white conservatives from both parties do likewise. The white liberal differs from the white conservative only in one way. The liberal is more deceitful, more hypocritical than the conservative. Both want power, but the white liberal is the one who has perfected the art of posing as the Negro's friend and benefactor. And by winning the friendship and support of the Negro, the white liberal is able to use the Negro as a pawn or a weapon in this political football game that is constantly raging between the white liberals and the white conservatives. The American Negro is nothing but a political football, and the white liberals control this ball through tricks or tokenism, false promises of integration and civil rights. In this game of deceiving and using the American Negro, the white liberals have complete cooperation of the Negro civil rights leaders who sell our people out for a few crumbs of token recognition, token gains, token progress. In the New York Tribune, in an editorial dated February the 5th, 1960, they pointed out that out of 11 million qualified Negro voters, only 2,700,000 actually take time to vote. This means that, roughly speaking, only 3 million out of the 11 million Negroes who are qualified to vote take an active part, and the remaining 8 million remain voluntarily inactive. And yet it is this small minority, the 3 million Negro voters, who help determine who will be the next president. If who will be the next president can be influenced by 3 million Negro voters, it is easy to see why the presidential candidates of both political parties put on such a false show with the Civil Rights Bill and promises of integration. They must impress the 3 million voting Negroes who are the actual integration seekers. And if so much fuss is made over these 3 million integration seekers, What would the presidential candidates have to do to appease the 8 million non-voting Negroes if they ever decided to become politically active? They hold the balance of power. Who are the 8 million non-voting Negroes? What do they want? And why don't they vote? The 3 million Negro voters are the so-called middle-class Negroes, or high-class Negroes, or uppity Negroes, who are referred to by the late Howard University sociology professor E. Franklin Frazier as the black bourgeoisie, who has...
Grace and peace, black family. This is
For suffer the consequences. The wisdom of Elijah's inside of the conscientious. So I move with it. My bad, family. I'm hitting the wrong buttons over here. I'm hitting the wrong buttons. But I'm here though, and it looks like my co-host is having some difficulty with her stream over there. What's up, Nicey girl? You good?
I will.
You here?
I'm back now. I'm good now.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm here.
Yes, indeed. We are here. We are here. So peace to the family. Welcome to another episode of Sincere Love the GodCast. I am the God, Sincere Love. And as you can see, I am here with my lovely co-host, nyctegur. What's going on? Uh-oh. It's going to be one of those nights? Is it going to be one of those nights?
What is it doing? Because I don't see it on my end.
You're not responding to me. It seems like you can't hear me.
I feel like it's fine. What is it doing?
Well, I asked you how you was doing, and you
I
didn't
can hear
answer.
you.
What's up? How you doing? See?
And I've been fine. I have literally been answering every question.
Did you tell us how you were doing?
I can hear you.
You keep saying you can hear me,
Yes,
but you're not
I said
answering.
I'm doing great. I did my handshake. Yes. Oh my God.
Nah, it's like
You can hear
nah. I can hear you, but it's like a 20-second delay, at least 10 seconds. It's like it's lagging behind. You're responding to me like way later. So I don't know what's going on with that.
That's you.
But
That's you.
make sure that y'all hit the like button, family. Make sure that y'all share this out on your social media platforms. Let everybody know that we are live with another episode of the Black Business Showcase tonight. And shout out to all the new subscribers, man. We just hit 1,000 subscribers over here on YouTube. So I guess we're making some progress. You know what I mean? We celebrating all of the small wins over here. So shout out to everybody who been rocking with us since day one. And shout out to all of the new subscribers as well. We just hit 1,000 yesterday, I think. So that's what's up, man. And so we got another great guest coming up for y'all tonight, man. It's going to be an exciting show. Yes, indeed. I'm not even going to read the long bio. I'm going to let our brother tell you about himself, you know, in his own words. You know, we're going to get all up in his black business tonight. But let me let y'all know who we got coming to the set. So tonight on the Black Business Showcase, we have former NBA player, current superstar of the Big Three, political activist, mental health activist. Our brother Royce White is in the building. What's going on, family? Welcome to the GodCast.
What's up, my man? Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yes, indeed. I appreciate you taking the time, man.
Yeah,
definitely. So let me make sure we all good as far as the sound, the audio, and the visual and all that. Can y'all see everybody and hear everybody in the chat? Y'all let us know if everybody is looking good and sounding good. Mic check 1 2 1 2. I don't know. It seems like there's some delay on Nicey's end. Seems like there's a delay. You, Royce, see if she can hear you.
Can you hear me? Test.
There you go.
I can hear you fine.
Okay, good. So we ready to rock and roll.
Can you guys?
Yeah, it's just a little bit of a delay.
Little glitchy, a little lagging, but I can hear you after a minute. Yeah.
We're gonna work through all the glitches.
Oh.
We're gonna work through all the glitches. You know what I mean? This is a live broadcast, so these things do occur from time to time. But we appreciate everybody being here, man.
So, man, brother Royce. This is an interesting brother right here, man. I haven't been tapped in with you for that long. I came across a lot of your content very recently, but I've been checking you out. You know, I've been reading up on you. I've been watching some of your interviews and stuff like that. And you know, to be honest, you take me on kind of like a roller. I ain't gonna say emotional roller coaster, but you know what I'm saying? It'd be like I'm listening to you talk. And you know, I'm like, yeah, right on. And then you'll say something where I'm like, wait, hold up. So it's almost like the Kanye effect with this brother right here. You know what I'm saying? But that's why I wanted you to come on, man, so I can learn more about some of these things that I may not understand. And so before we get into that, tell us a little bit about yourself, man. Let us get the origin story of Royce White, man. Who is Royce White?
I mean, the origin story is, I mean, it would take hours to be, and you know, I come from the Twin Cities, Minnesota. I was born and raised here. You know, single mother household up until I was about 13, and I left home. You know, I decided that, you know, the streets would be better for me. I learned a lot in the streets. I learned from a lot of people in the streets, a lot of good people, a lot of bad people. I learned a lot about people in general. And I was able to survive the streets from that young age and make my way to get a full ride basketball scholarship to the University of Minnesota. Didn't actually play at the University of Minnesota because when the university is a stone's throw from your neighborhood, you tend to attract what they call unwanted guests, unwanted traffic on the university campus. So I got myself into a little bit of trouble on campus when I was at the University of Minnesota. Was fortunate enough to be able to transfer to Iowa State, have a great time there, no trouble, you know, away from home a bit, far out in the cornfield, an entirely different world in Ames, Iowa, which is right around the Des Moines area, about 45 minutes from the Des Moines area. And from there, I was on track and on my way to becoming an NBA draft prospect. And my NBA story is probably the most important origin story because, you know, from day one, I was the one black man that the establishment, I'm the establishment's worst nightmare. Let's just put it like that. It ain't got to do with black or white. It's just a bonus. It's an added problem that I'm a black man. But I'm the establishment's worst nightmare because I came into the NBA with the mindset that I couldn't be bought, that there was nothing somebody could pay me to not tell the truth. And the first truth that I told was, hey, I've been dealing with anxiety disorder. You know, at 16 years old, I was diagnosed with anxiety disorder. I had seen a lot. I had been through a lot. I had lived through a lot, survived a lot, and it left scars. And I had some issues with anxiety, but it never stopped me from being able to play at a very high level. It just made me it made me very conscious of when it was time to perform and when it was time to deal with that anxiety away from the court. So, you know, by the time I had gotten to the NBA, this was a big story. This was a big story about a player talking about their anxiety ahead of being drafted and how the NBA would look at mental health as a topic. Would they consider it a health issue, or would they consider it a character flaw, right? Mm-hmm. And so, you know, when I arrived on the scene in the NBA, I got into a huge debate with the NBA league office and my team at the time, the Houston Rockets, about mental health policy. What was the mental health policy? Well, there was no mental health policy, right? The mental health policy in the CBA at that time was non-existent. And at that time, I advocated that we needed a mental health policy because I wanted special treatment. No, what about me wanting special treatment? That's how the neoliberal, Marxist, globalist, anti-human establishment media wanted to portray me. Okay. But the reality was I was asking a broader question about how the players were supposed to interact with the NBA as a league without a clear understanding about one of the most important social issues of our time, and that is mental health. Let's start here. When I say mental health, I don't mean the DSM. I don't mean depression, anxiety, although those are included. Mm-hmm. I'm talking about where the mind, body, and spirit converge, where the mind, body, and spirit converge into our lived experience. That's what mental health means to the human condition, right? So how do the players interact with this environment, with the league around issues such as drugs, let's say, which they had a long drawn out list of banned substances, one of which included a medicine I was actually prescribed for, which is Xanax, which is actually a level 2 narcotic that the pharmaceutical industry has no problem selling at mass. Okay, so I'm asking these questions behind closed doors about these complex political corporate issues, and the anti-Jews that run the NBA sat me in a room and they said, "Hey man, you're right. Okay, you got it. You're smart. We get it. You're sharp. You read the fine print. You went through the collective bargaining agreement. You understand the game that we've played here. But nobody's gonna listen to you if you don't play. Who will listen to you if you don't play? If you play for 15 years, then we could probably help you do these things that you want to do. But if you stop playing, because what I had said was, hey, if we're not going to have an honest dialogue about this mental health topic, then I can't move forward in good faith. Because what you're not going to do is you're not going to pretend like we have an understanding out in the public, but then behind closed doors leverage the lack of written policy against me when it comes time to negotiate my contract. See, because I know how that game goes, because I came from the streets and I was raised up by cats that actually played in the NBA long before I ever made it. I grew up knowing other players.
Real quick.
Okay.
At that point, what was the specific problem that you had? What was your ask of the NBA?
I said we need a mental health policy for the entire league. For the entire collective bargaining agreement had no mental health, no mention of mental health at all. I said there's no way that we could have a banned substance list that lays out substances that are usually a byproduct of unresolved mental health issues, but not have a policy around mental health itself. That seems like we're dealing with issues downstream in a punitive nature instead of a proactive resolute type of nature. And that's how the game is played. This is how they mean to play the game for everybody. This is how Big Pharma moves. We're going to medicate you after you're sick. The medical industrial complex. On one end, you got Big Pharma, but on the other end, you got the USDA. You got food production, the same food that makes you sick and makes you insane. Right. They then medicate you. They're the same people, right? So so I was catching on to that, and you could just say that they brought me to a back room, and they gave me an offer to take the money and take the fame and take the status for a short while they figured out how they could use me. But they pitched it as they were going to allow me to bring forward this message. And in the back of my mind, I knew, because I come from the streets, you can't pimp me. You know, a man who owns a corporation today is no different than the pimp on the corner. You can't pimp nobody who comes from the streets. Period. I know when you're trying to leave, trying to penny pinch me and feed me breadcrumbs. I'm not no idiot, and when I brought that kind of energy into the room, David Stern told me very clearly, listen, either you could play ball or you could never be in this league again. And who will care what you have to say? And I told David Stern plain and simple, I'm going to live longer than you. And he's dead now. And I'm here talking to you.
How old were you?
I was 21.
21 years old. These issues, the medication and all that was never an issue in college?
I was an All-American in college.
Okay. And so the question that I have then, where did the consciousness come from, entering into the league at such a young age, that awareness of, what questions to ask and what to look for in the contracts and all of that?
I mean, I've always excelled as a student. I've always had a curious mind. I've always had a love of history. I've always had a love of politics. My family, although I had, rough spots and bumpy, bumps in the road with my family, what I can say about my family is that they were very politically aware. My mom said, I'm from Minneapolis, so we had a local access channel called WGN here. And in WGN, they used to have the minister on public access. If you're from the Chicago area, the Milwaukee area, the upper Midwest like that, you remember when Farrakhan was actually on cable television. So my mom used to sit me down in front of the TV, and I used to watch Farrakhan as a young boy, like real young. So, you know, that shaped me. But also my mom put Malcolm X's book, so that shaped me. But I was curious myself. And when I was a teenager, you could say I came across certain historical stories that really interested me. And most of them had to do with government and big corporations. So I started to tailor my research around government and big corporations. And the NBA is the watering hole of a global corporate community. And people want to say, let's separate the sports from the politics. There is no separation of sports and politics, just like there is no separation of church and state.
Right.
The sports are politics, and the politics are never off. Okay, the politics are when your local city mayor goes to the table with a Joseph Tsai and gets the okay to build an arena with your tax money. That would be called politics, right, ladies and gentlemen. And they justify it, and they say that it brings prosperity and hope to the community. But really what they bring is alcohol and radical materialism. See, you can't pimp me. You know, I'm unpimpable, let's just say. So, you know, to answer the question though, I came into the league with a sort of political mindset already, especially because I had been introduced to mental health, which shifted my entire outlook on what I had previously thought politically, right? It kind of gave me a more empathy towards a broader spectrum of people, because I understood how how physical and real the psychological can be, right, on a person's everyday life, because I had lived it, right? So that's where, you know, I became more interested in a broader conversation that wasn't so anchored on Black people.
Okay, we'll get into that. I got so many questions for you, bro.
Yeah,
I got so many questions.
I'm here. I'm free. I'm here to answer the people's questions.
No doubt. So just staying on the topic of the mental health for a little bit, and the medication and things of that nature. I wonder, like, we seeing the situation that's going on with Ye right now. You know what I'm saying? I feel like when Ye first came out talking about his mental health issues, his alleged mental health issues, and being on medication and all of that, I felt like that was kind of a bad move on his part. If it was something that he was dealing with, I thought he should have dealt with it privately. But I felt like that gave them the ammunition to kind of jackal him the way that they're doing now. Do you think that that's an issue for you? You know what I'm saying? Being that you dealing with the mental health and all of that stuff, that they could easily say, well, he's crazy. He dismiss you with those labels.
Yeah, I see it all the time. I mean, I see people. Look, let's turn the page back. If you've never heard of me, if you've never heard my story, if you have no clue who I am, and the first thing you do is go to Google me and then see my Wikipedia, click on that, and you think you understand who I am or have some grasp of my story, they already got you. You're already being controlled by the security state. Who do these people think Wikipedia is? A brand new aggregate of information that's one click away, where all of the other authoritative sources go to dump the aggregate of their information across history. You people are being brainwashed in one fell swoop at one stop shop. And so, you know, my response to the Kanye piece is, no, he didn't make a mistake. He's being honest, and you can only live honestly. Yes, he said, I deal with bipolar disorder. That doesn't mean that anything he's saying is less valid because he's dealing with that. What it means is that he has given up that sort of self-aggrandizement and humbled himself before the people that he claims and says that he wants to try and help and inform and bring up and lift up. You have to throw away that self-aggrandizement before you can actually be impactful to anybody else. You can't live in this place where you've put yourself on a pedestal where you think that you're perfect and you're terrified about people seeing your vulnerabilities and flaws. That's not human. That's being a robot. That's being fake. So, people can use that against him all they want to. And I think there are times where you can see where the bipolar plays a role in the way that he articulates certain things or talks about certain issues. But my case ain't like that at all. I'm as solid as a brick wall when it comes to these conversations. Mm-hmm. So many of the people who want to criticize me or go, oh, ain't this the kid that was scared to fly on planes and has mental health issues because Wikipedia told me it? Yeah, he's just crazy. Right. They're doing it for a different reason than they're doing it to Ye. They're doing it because the things I say,
they don't want to have a conversation with you.
Straight to the heart of the issue that they don't want to confront. Kanye, he's a little bit of a troll, right? Like he plays the game a little bit with them to like when he said when he was on Tucker, I was watching the interview and he goes, he was talking about the one guy and he goes, I don't know, I'll talk to him if I see him, but I bet you he see me.
Yeah,
right. And then he goes, I don't even know the guy. I just thought that would sound cool. Right. Yeah. Like that. Like he plays with people like that. I don't play like that. I don't play at all. I'm straight down the pipe all day long. So when people say that I'm crazy, it's because they don't want to have to deal with that energy. That energy irritates people's demons. That I'm the establishment's worst nightmare because I don't have no desire to be liked. And I love Kanye and I love a lot of what he's saying, but there's a part of him that still wants to be accepted. There's a part of him that still wants people to believe what he's saying. I'm not selling no used cars. I don't care if you believe what I'm saying. You gonna buy this motherfucker or you ain't. I'm not here to convince you. I've made a decision in my life that is best for my sanity and my spirit to tell the truth that I know. And if people want to accept that and get behind that and use it in their life, that's perfectly fine. If not, I'm going to keep being me. So there's a difference, but I do see the establishment use the crazy accusation often.
Yeah. And I think the difference between with somebody like you and what you're describing with somebody like you and Ye is with Ye, they're kind of eager and quick to put the microphone in his face because he's not very clear and he's a little bit all over the place and the trolling and all of that. It's easy for them to use that against him. But with somebody like you, who's very clear and straightforward with what the message is, they don't want people to listen to that. You know what I'm saying?
Amen.
They don't want people to listen to that.
Yeah, you're 100% right. I'm glad other brothers are catching on to that because, and it's not no diss on Ye. It ain't no diss on Colin Kaepernick. It's not a diss on any of these black people who have been given a microphone, even the ones who have gone off script. Because there's a whole different brand of black folks who have been given a microphone who we can tell are bought and paid for, right? But the ones that even go off script, oftentimes they struggle to articulate the issues full circle, and that's not by accident. They're putting a mic in front of Kanye's face for a very specific reason. And also, they're hoping that a Kanye West doesn't come get next to and connect with me so I can help clarify a lot of the message and it get real dangerous. So, you're 100% right. There's a reason why at 21, when I said mental health is the greatest social issue we face, they hurry up and got the mic away from me. They didn't keep the mic on me like, watch what crazy shit this Negro's going to say. No, because they knew everything I was saying was backed up by their own medical research. Everything I was saying was stuff that they said first. Everything I was going to say is stuff that they had already admitted themselves. They just don't like a black man repeating it. So, and Kanye's dealing with that some too. But the bipolar, and let's make this clear as well. The manifestation of bipolar symptoms is significantly different than anxiety. Yeah. It's significantly different than depression. And the three can be comorbid. You could have bipolar, anxiety, and depression all at the same time. But bipolar is a schism of personality, right? So people actively go in and out of very drastic modes of personality and thought. That's what it means to be bipolar. You have two different poles that your personality is pulled towards. That ain't the case with anxiety. I don't like to fly in planes because they're 30,000 feet in the air. I get a little claustrophobic at 6'8", and I don't trust that the pilot isn't a drunk or a cokehead. I mean, that's just, or the guy at the tower who's directing traffic. And to be honest, I'm not in that big a rush to go anywhere. So, it's a very different mental health issue is what I'm saying. And bipolar is much less prominent than anxiety and depression. Anxiety and depression are the most common mental health issues. And then it's probably even, I would say, drug addiction. And bipolar is a little bit down the trough. So
talk about Colin Kaepernick, man. I heard an interesting take from you on the whole Colin Kaepernick situation and the comparison between the NBA, the NFL, liberals and conservatives.
Yeah, the liberal establishment meant to use Colin Kaepernick from day one. They saw him go out there and take a knee, and they sat back and they waited and they said, let's see if this young man actually can articulate the issue full circle. And if he shows one chink in his armor, if there's one crack in the levee, we're going to reach our hand in there, snatch him, and co-opt everything that he is trying to articulate, everything he has an intuition towards. And so I saw the immediate juxtaposition that was created in the narrative is, well, the NFL is racist and the NBA does way better on race. The NBA does way better with its players. No, it don't. The NBA and the NFL are the exact motif of what Malcolm X talked about in the intro, right. But even more accurately, the NBA and the NFL represent what we come to describe as the uniparty. And that's what Malcolm X was alluding to. Only the conservatives in the country right now, or the America First MAGA people, use the term uniparty. And what it says is that there's a political elite that has played a bunch of different people against each other all across this country, across many different lines, black versus white, to make off with the green, right? Black people versus white people while they steal your tax money. And it's on both sides of the aisle. So I see the NBA and the NFL as their representation in two distinct ways. On the left, you got the NBA with their identity politics and their neoliberal, Marxist, globalist racism. And on the right, you got the NFL and their infatuation with the military-industrial complex. And that is what Colin Kaepernick rubbed the wrong way. But he couldn't, when he said that the police issue is the main issue, it was just a failure of scope. Right. He had a failure of understanding because the police are the lowest rung of the military-industrial complex. The police are the watchdogs for the corporatocracy. They're meant to control and contain social unrest from a populace that has been scammed and taken advantage of from the word go, that has been taxed without representation, that has been that has had their tax money sent to the Ukraine. So, Cap didn't really have, he either didn't have the understanding or he didn't have the desire to speak in that way or touch on that issue. And I'm gonna do that whenever you dropping one of them bombs, man. So not to interrupt you, but you know what I mean? And so what happened was after Cap failed to take the conversation to the next level, then the liberal establishment said, oh, we got this Negro. We know what to do with him. We know exactly where to park this movement. Come over here with this BLM neoliberal Marxist movement. Nike, Disney. Who do these people, when we say the whole system is guilty, when black people say the entire system is guilty, who are you talking about? What institutions do you mean?
All of them.
Do you mean the Republican Party? You think the Republican Party is the entire system?
Hell no.
Not Nike, not Disney, not Pfizer, not not big tech, Facebook. Right. None of them, not Netflix. They're not the system, right? The USDA, the U.S. Food Administration, they're not the system. The Federal Reserve, they're not the system. JP Morgan, they're not the system. Just the white supremacists who followed Donald. You niggas is crazy. You niggas think I'm stupid. I'm not going for that. Who are you talking to? You could run that on those. You could run that on a young black man who ain't really paying attention. You run that on those young white folks, the white liberals who go to their college and get high and try and displace all of their anxiety and depression from getting high and not having any meaning in their life. So they grab on to whatever the ready-made politics are. You can run it on them. You can't run it on nobody who left home at 13 and was raised by the streets. I just see too clear. And so, again, when Kaepernick failed to take the conversation to the next level, the liberal establishment came in, co-opted him, and then they pitted him against the Bible Belt of conservatives who were already on the other side of a police issue and a police narrative that had been grossly misrepresented in the media, exclusively for traffic, for TV ratings, but also to sow racial division. See, their narrative is that Trump is sowing the racial division, but I would say that to misrepresent the police issue actually sows the racial division. Because black people have this idea, and it stems all the way back to the Civil Rights Act that Malcolm X was talking about, that our rights and our freedom is contingent upon the ever expanding government. That in order to achieve freedom, in order to achieve security individually or as a community, we must always vote for the government to continuously expand. But in that, we become wards of the state. And why would we believe that the police are ever going to protect us? See, the white folks, they don't believe that the police need to protect them. They don't believe it. I'm not saying all of them. Let's be clear. There are some Republicans who are milquetoast, closer to the center, almost Democrat Republicans who think, oh, we need more police so that I'm protected from black criminals. Yeah, y'all are corny. Them ain't the MAGA Republicans. The MAGA Republicans is I got this chopper on me at my house and I got 2 pit bulls. I wish you would run through here. That's American. That's a nation of shopkeepers, and the Second Amendment creating a safeguard against economic imperialism from the crown. But we failed to know that history.
You dropping it, brother, man. You dropping it, man. I gotta let my sister jump in here, man. I got a gazillion questions.
I do. I don't know. So obviously, the last 2-3 years or so, I saw Kwame Brown, because I don't follow sports like that, to be honest. I just don't. But when he went viral, I started to watch him, and he started dropping a lot of information as well about how the NBA, is run and what kept him silent so long. And what when he decided to speak out. And a lot of the points that you're hitting on right now, I feel like I didn't hear another side of that from someone else that experienced that. So it's refreshing to hear, like, yeah, he wasn't lying, like he wasn't making this up, because you're validating a lot of the points that he made. But I do have a question, since you brought up conservatives and stuff like that, and I know that you are a Republican. We don't typically, and I understand why, Black people do not get behind Republicans either. And I look at, why should they come out and say, well, this is what I'm going to do specifically for Black people. You guys don't support us. You take 99% of your vote over there to the Democrats. But why haven't they, do you think, or why don't Black Republicans push reparations for Black Americans, or specifically for foundational Black Americans?
Okay, well, let's say this. There is a failure of history within the Republican Party. So when you see me stand here or sit here as a person who ran as a Republican candidate, I believe in the Lincoln Republican Party. I believe in Abraham Lincoln's Republican manifesto, the one that freed the slaves, that one. I believe in that one. And along the way, the Republican movement, like Malcolm so eloquently put it, became a part of a scam to push forward global governance, the uniparty. And so if you understand the history, World War II was the inflection of this. This was the inflection point where the Republican Party joined in with the liberals and focused on what they call the post-World War II democratic liberal order. Post-World War II democratic liberal order. Okay, which is actually just another way to say the New World Order. Okay, and so that was Israel was, the inception of Israel was 1949, which was the first act of the United Nations. You could argue The fall, the World War II ended in the mid 40s. So the Civil Rights Act doesn't get passed for another 20 something years. Mm-hmm. Okay, so the Civil Rights Act gets passed, and that's already a uniparty sort of merger. Now you got your Republicans, quote unquote, in the South, who were never Republicans to begin with. They were Democrats. Okay, and so I don't care. The great scam is that we get caught up with believing that if a person says they're Republican, they are one. Mm-hmm. And if they say they're a Democrat, they are one. That's already a fallacy. And what the new Republican movement is trying to do, despite Donald Trump and any of his flaws and his inability to articulate the message in a way that doesn't come across as being an asshole, which he does at many times, and so do I. I can be an asshole as well. I know 3 people with black skin that are assholes too. Assholes and elbows, everybody has them. So the problem is that the mainstream liberal media has shaped the narrative to where black people think of the Republican Party that wanted to not deny them civil rights as Donald Trump's Republican Party. But Donald Trump came into the Republican Party trying to crush the Republicans that had already been there. The George Bushes, the George Daddy Bush.
That was his whole appeal.
That was his entire arrival on the scene, was these Republicans aren't really Republicans. They're in on it. And so the way that they're in on it, you could say that really sort of manifested after the Civil Rights Act, and it's not by coincidence that we get black people to believe they had this great restoration of their American rights and the American dream. And then 5 years later, we go off the gold standard. We open China as the great new horizon for manufacturing, which made up a large portion of black people's jobs. Mm-hmm. And we make Roe versus Wade, we make abortion legal, which ends up killing 30 million black people. And just to top it off, we find the start of the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, right? I mean, that's the sine qua non of globalism right there. That we have to protect the environment against man. So, so when I say that that's the inception or the height of the uniparty, think of what happened at that time. Think of who was in power. Richard Nixon, who said he was a conservative, but really he was a Democrat. He ran as a Republican, but he was the moderate Republican who ran against Barry Goldwater, who was actually the more genuine conservative. Richard Nixon's right-hand man was who? Henry Kissinger.
Kissinger was the advisor, right?
Democrat. Globalist. Sine qua non. Globalism. Let's go to China. Let's send the manufacturing to China. Pro-Israel. Let's make sure that what happened in World War II could never happen again by bringing together all of the world's economic markets under one global governance and one global agenda, right? And you black folks, you jump on board because we just gave you civil rights. You don't have a choice in the matter. You don't even know what we're doing. You're not going to know until the manufacturing jobs are all in China and Detroit looks like a goddamn war zone. You're not even going to recognize what happened until it's too late. And then when it gets to that point, we'll just blame it on whoever the Republican person is who stands up to say, wait a minute, what happened to this nation's jobs?
Right.
And that's the scam. So to answer your question, I had to give a little history. But to answer your question, there's a war within the Republican Party right now. And I think the old Republicans and even some of the new Republicans have abandoned the inner cities. And it is a great failure of the Republican Party to abandon the inner cities. And, I struggle with this a lot because I come from the streets. Like I come from the streets to the point where I know the dangers of going into the black community with a Bible and trying to bring a ministry and a gospel to people who have accepted radical materialism. Let's talk for real. Okay, so yes, black people have failed to open their minds and their hearts to any other political narrative than that which was given to them by neoliberal white folks. But also the Republicans have failed to have the courage to go into the black communities with the gospel and with the Bible and with the truth and try and pull them out of that thinking. And as far as reparations goes, I mean, it's like I was telling a good friend of mine the other day, why would you want? We have to be very clear and think long and hard about what reparations would look like in a dying economy. And so, would you want paper money when the dollar is on its way to crashing? That'd be another way for them to pull an okie doke. We'll give you reparations on a dollar that's already hyperinflated. So a reparations package in my vision would be something like sovereign land, casino rights, and manufacturing bids to onshore America's manufacturing or repatriate America's manufacturing back here to our own country, so that our antibiotics aren't being made and manufactured by a country that openly says they're at war with us. Right. That would probably be a good thing. And I think Black people could play a pivotal role. So I'm for talking about reparations. I think a lot of Republicans are instinctually hesitant or reject it because the neoliberal Marxists are the ones who get to stand out in front and speak on behalf of it. Black people need to break away from the Democrats and this political football, like Malcolm X described, and make our own ask and our own demands like Ice Cube tried to do. And they said he was a sellout. Right. Ice Cube said, contract with Black America. I'll go talk to the Democrats and the Republicans so we can ask what we're getting for our vote. That was a very FBA American thing to do. That was a very FBA move to make. And a Jewish man helped him do it, by the way. A good friend of mine, Jeff Quadnitz, who I love to death. So they tried to do that. And Black people had the audacity to say, how dare you go talk to Donald Trump?
Right.
What?
What's the stupidest
those
thing
black people? Those Black people don't represent us as a whole.
Those
Black people that you hear talking that dumb shit, they don't represent us as a whole.
All.
But hold on a second, brother. Stick with what you were saying as far as the reparations package. I think everything that you were describing fits inside of the reparations package, but it absolutely cannot exclude the paper money, as you were saying. That's absolutely necessary. You know what I'm saying?
No, but you can't do it. No, let me tell you why you can't do it. And this is a failure of us as a community to understand the broader economic situation. We have $173 trillion in unfunded liabilities.
Okay.
The ass is off the donkey. The economy is like you ever seen a video of a chicken running around with its head cut off and it's still moving because it doesn't realize it's dead yet? Mm-hmm. That's our economy, right? So when it comes to the cash, when it comes to the value of the U.S. dollar, the dollar is not something that we want to take on as recompense for whatever it was that was done to us. We don't want dollars. We want the thing that's going to last and that's going to carry value, that's not going to fluctuate based on what y'all decide to do with the levers of the country and the economy.
I think we need all that, man. It has to be okay, go ahead.
We want casino. We want everything that they give into the Native Americans right now, who also
but listen, if the cash you're not, first of all, you're not going to get the cash because let's say this. You're definitely not getting the cash if you vote Democrat, because the first cash is going to the LGBTQ. That's number one. Okay. Now the second cash is going to all of the countries that the globalist movement means to protect or means to pirate their resources. So we actually spend money to go to other countries and take their shit. Right. That's what our tax money goes to. That's what we're doing in the Ukraine. You don't understand this. We're in the Ukraine to protect our investment, to ward off Russia in a Cold War that never stopped. We've been fighting a Cold War the whole time. It just hasn't been out in the open.
But brother, they're funding them. They're funding them with the same cash that you're saying we shouldn't want.
No. What I'm saying is you're not going to get that cash because there's no scenario where the people who we vote for, not at a 90% clip in the Black community, are going to ever give that money to that money. Let's say this: if there will be a cash deal, it'll come from the other side. It'll come from.
I would not be surprised about that. Honestly, I would not be surprised about if there was a Republican that said, "Yo, you know what? We're going to run on reparations." I wouldn't be. It would not shock me.
And guess what they're going to do? No, and guess what? They might do it for selfish reasons. They might do it for the same reasons that the Civil Rights Act was meant to ensure that black people would vote Democrat for 100 years. But will we still take that?
Well, that was like what you said. That was like what you said about the Kissinger thing. Like they ushered in that whole benign neglect policy where, you know, they threw the trick bag language in there, start talking about minorities and people of color and you know, disenfranchised communities and all these things that were supposed to mean black, but everybody else benefited from it except for us. We're not falling for that trick bag.
Well, but we have. Now let's be honest. You, my brother, represent a unique outlier, and the people like who talk about foundational Black Americans, even as a grouping, are an outlier. The majority of Black folks in our country right now suffer from one dire crisis. They're sellouts. And I'm not talking about, like, we could talk about LeBron and we should talk about LeBron, but it's not LeBron. It's our impulse to sell out that allows us to let LeBron represent us at the table with politicians who decide on whether we get reparations or not.
Or Cardi B.
Now you're right. You're right.
And don't forget Cardi B.
Oh, she's the worst. She's the worst.
Let's go into that because you're absolutely right. And the clear example of that was, like you said, what brought us together was me reposting a clip from you talking about LeBron James.
Yeah.
And if y'all follow me on Instagram, if you look at the post that I put with this brother talking about LeBron and read those comments, the majority of the Black people in those comments fit the description of the mindset that he's talking about. You know what I'm saying? Our willingness to allow somebody like a LeBron James to play the position that they put him in as our representative, because we're also willing, like, shit, if I had $1 billion, I'll do the same thing.
Right.
That's what the majority of the comments is saying.
Yep.
Shit, I wouldn't say nothing either if I had $1 billion. What you talking about? Why you hating? That's the common comments that you see in there. You just hating because you ain't got the $1 billion. This brother passed up $100 million to do what he's doing. You had the opportunity to make that type of bread.
More than that.
In that echelon of society.
More than think of this. Number one, I'm 6'8", 270, and I play the one. So I'm unique already from a physical standpoint. I'm light-skinned with green eyes, and I'm articulate. That's called being commercial. That's called being marketable. If I was to put on a dress and be gender fluid, they'd have given me $1 billion. If I would have put on a dress and said that I was gender neutral, they would have given me $3 billion.
That part for me, you know.
I can't wear a dress. My OGs are still alive, and I know there's a crisis of OGs, and I don't want to glorify gang culture, but I have to say with all honesty and all humility that a man who most people in America would see as a common criminal or thug actually took me and pulled me aside at a very young age at a time where I had a fork in the road and I could have chosen this path or this path. And he told me that you're going to be something bigger than a gang chief. Yeah, you could be a gang chief. I could give you that. And you might be good at it. You might be great at it. You're going to be a great leader no matter what you do. But why would you want to do that? Why would you want to stop there? No, you need to be the president of the United States one day, young man. That's what you were called to do. So I came up very Detroit red, like you could say in my story, right? In my upbringing. So I have no problem calling these people out. And it's not hating. Look, if we assume that anytime a black person who is trying to convey a hidden or forgotten truth, and black people who have been empowered by the same system we say means to control or oppress us, if every time we come to speak that truth and you say that we shouldn't be able to speak that truth based on the fact that these black people have material success, then we're always doomed to be led by the same system who we say is oppressing us. I'm not who do these people think LeBron James is? He was taken out of the community at 18 years old and given a Hummer and $90 million from one of the most corrupt globalist companies in the entire world. Everybody selectively wants to forget that Nike was totally fine using child slave labor. Everybody wants to act like they don't know right now that China has 2 million Uyghurs, Chinese Muslims in concentration camps today. They're the same company they were 30 years ago, 20 years ago. We all conveniently want to overlook the things that we say we're fighting against or believe in when it's advantageous for our own personal goals and agenda. And that's what you're seeing in those comments.
Do you think many people don't understand that, though? Do you think many people don't really understand how deep that rabbit hole goes and are able to connect those dots?
No, I think they may not understand. They may not know the details. But I also think that when your spirit isn't clear, when your vision isn't clear, when you're a radical materialist, when you get high, when you drink all the time, when you try and distract yourself from having to look in the mirror and become a better version of yourself, you are easily misled. You are easily manipulated. You become gullible. So yes, I think that many Black people don't know the fundamental truth about these issues, but I also will say in full honesty that I think many Black people's spirit is geared towards lies. They want the lie. They accept the lie.
A comfortable
because
lie.
In the same breath, you'll hear a lot of Black folks say, well, I'll give you this example. There's an entire socialist, Marxist movement that's taken over Black intelligentsia, not your common Black man who's on the street who sells weed to get by and is on, his girls on government food stamps and they got 3 kids and whatnot. Not those Black folks, but I'm talking about the Black folks that either go to college, whether it's Black colleges or not, and they've encountered or listened to Black folks who went to college. In the Black academia world, they've accepted this sort of Marxist, socialist, communist motif. LGBT. And they openly talk about the same things that I'm talking about. They'll talk about China. They'll talk about a lot of these issues. But when it comes to a political division, they'll side with the oppressor. That's what I can't stand. When it comes time to talk about an issue that's along a politically divided line, they lose their sense of direction. They can't keep a coherent logic about the morals and the ethics. And that's what you're seeing in those comments. Oh, LeBron built a school. Don't build a school with blood money from another country and call it philanthropy. Don't build a school with blood money from another country and call it philanthropy. That's not philanthropy. That's called a bait and switch. That's called a 3-card Monty. That's called the overlay for the underlay. That's called you're special, LeBron, because you bent the knee and we paid you this money. And what you're going to do is put your name and face on a school for a select group of Black folks who we're going to teach the same politics we taught you. Meanwhile, the other kids in Akron, Ohio, still suffer from the same policies we wrote.
Woo. I'm just saying. And I saw the staff at the school, and the staff doesn't even represent the people that he would want to touch as far as his own community.
Yeah, they're white women, of course.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
I don't even know where to go from there.
I don't know where else to. Since we're talking, politics and stuff like that. So I personally, this is just me. I started voting at 19. Didn't know any. I recently got into studying and learning about politics. I was ignorantly voting from 19 to now in my 40s, right? Democrat. And that's how I was told to vote. When you go in there, just wherever it says Democrat, put that. That's how I was told to do. And I did that up until the Trump election. You know what I'm saying? But now, in understanding how these different policies affect my community, me specifically, it's certain things that I look for in politicians. And then one thing that I look for is politicians that are for or against open borders. I'm against open borders. I'm against, legal and forms of legal and illegal immigration. How do you feel about that? Do you feel that, do you support amnesty for illegals?
Okay. The immigrant, well, first of all, amen to what you said, because as a Black woman, to say that in this day and age is already a sign of distinct courage that many of the Black women who stand on these platforms don't have. You are a real Black woman for even having the courage to say such a thing in this political climate. So I appreciate that. But the immigration issue is a complex issue. Reason being is the only way that we can solve the economic crisis without having without legal immigration and the labor that resides there is if we make a cultural and economic and political choice to pull our manufacturing or our money or our economic ties to China back to America. So you sort of got a triangular economic situation there. You got people coming up from the border who are doing the manual labor for money that is getting shipped to China. So in that way, you got a transatlantic sort of triangle happening, and it's complex. And so the question that we have to ask ourselves as Black people in this country is, what's so wrong with a hard day's work? Who were the people who gave us the idea that there's no sacred honor in a hard day's work? People who have forgotten Christianity, people who have forgotten God.
I don't believe that. I don't believe that Black people as a group have that mentality. And there's a few examples of some of the agricultural companies and some of the factories that had got shut down because of the illegals that were working there. And the next day, Black people were lined up to take over those jobs. So it's not that Black people refuse to do the remedial work. It's just that those opportunities are being systematically handed to these people who are willing to work for the lower rate, the unfair wages.
No, yes,
you have
no.
policies like the J1 policy where these companies, can, or H8, one of them, something like that, where companies can sponsor illegals, so they can come over here and work for pennies.
Here's what I'm saying.
Sponsor them for citizenship so they can continue to work there for pennies with no benefits.
The HV1 visas is a crazy policy. But again, let's start from here. Globalism, first of all, when I ran a campaign for Congress against Ilhan Omar, and I said globalism is the greatest crisis that this country faces, and particularly the Black community. And the local paper here, the Star Tribune, said that globalism was a dog whistle for anti-Semitism. Now, what I said in response is that globalism is an economic attack on the low and middle class of a nation by crushing a nation's borders. So I'm with you. We definitely have to have a secure border, and we definitely need to be even stricter about a border and immigration in general to protect the middle class in this country, and particularly Black people in this country. But again, the globalist agenda is a Democrat agenda, 100%. A borderless world is a Democrat dogma. Okay, if we create borderless countries, then we take people's culture and we take their identity, and then we can ascribe them a new identity, one that we've tailor-made for them, right? And it's not I'm Black or I'm white, it's I'm a global citizen, and race doesn't matter. We're all equal. No, we're not all equal. What are you talking about? We're equal in the eyes of God.
Right.
But even sin has degree. So we're not even equal in that category. There's nothing equal about people. You're born equal. That's what the American Constitution. We are all born equal. We're not all equal. That's ridiculous. I'm 6'8". The guy across the hall might be 5'2". They're not equal about that. Okay. So but what I'm saying about the work culture is this. We have let sports and entertainment do a number on our young people's mindset about the fundamental value of work. I'm not saying that if jobs open up, Black people won't go there in a struggling economy to make ends meet. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying, do they find that fundamental value in that fruit for the soul in that hard day's work? And I think that we have been lied to and brainwashed to think that we should want something that isn't so good for us anyway. Why do y'all want to be? Why do y'all what? Show me a millionaire who you want, and I see it all the time on social media. You know how many people are going out of town and posting pictures like there's some affluent metropolitan world traveler, but at the same time they vote for a party who wants to expand the welfare state. So when I talk about hard work, yes, Black people will work jobs, and we are hardworking people when we work. But ultimately, we voted for a welfare state where we don't have to work. And there's nothing worse than to take a man, and it's actually an attack on the man. See, let's get down to the root of it, right? Because really, the white men, the white moms, the white suburban housewife is still a thing. The white man hasn't had his work and his life's ambition and taken from him. He actually has work, and he actually worked, and the wife in large part supports that thing. But they're having their own interracial man versus woman battle as well.
She just want her
black man was stripped of our job. Now we live with the girl who's on welfare.
Right. And she the man of the
you
house.
Think you're a man. And then not only that, you're taking the welfare money and you're going to try and add in the money that you sell a little this, sell a little that. Not to make generalizations. Everybody got to hustle. I'm not knocking it. I think that it's a lack of sacred honor, but it is what it is. The government's stealing as well. So when your government steals, everybody steals. But you sell a little this, sell a little that to make ends meet. And all of a sudden you're going to Miami on some boys trip and you renting a Lambo to make yourself look like who? 2 Chainz or the next rapper that's going to get shot and killed by another black man who's hating on what he has, and y'all think y'all got it figured out? You don't got it figured out. Sit back and listen. Go back and listen to Malcolm. Go back and listen to Malcolm and understand what he was actually saying. Then you come back to the table and figure out the history so you can arm yourself in the political. We can't continue to go on with these lies and these fantasies about where we are. We shooting each other every day. Just yesterday, 30 shots rang off, right in the neighborhood. It's happening every day. Y'all, how can we even talk about a black agenda when we don't have the self-respect that Malcolm said it? How are we talking about what the white people will or won't give us when we still stabbing each other in Harlem?
Is that an overgeneralization?
Yeah, because isn't that due to lack of resources though?
No, it's not due to lack of resources. No,
it comes down to economics. When you talk about crime.
Stop. No, wait a second. Stop. This is not true. Okay. I can't. No. The first thing that a man must always be responsible for is his own actions. Number one, the things that he believes in, sacred honor. What are the morals, ethics, and values that he's willing to live by, fight for, and die for? That comes before a dollar is ever passed into your hand. Now, do resources create the environment that would incentivize people to lose their sacred honor and become criminal? Absolutely. But that's a sign of selling out. That's not a sign of us being victims or being honorable. Don't sell me heroin and then bring me turkeys on Thanksgiving and say that it's philanthropy. It's not. Frank Lucas, that's a lie. And the fact that we glorify this, the fact that we make this space where we say, oh, well, we just don't got money. That's why. No. We don't have sacred honor. We don't view each other as human. We don't view each other as people worth living. And at the moment's notice, we'll kill each other for some ridiculous pipe dream or some ridiculous emotional instability that we developed in a system that's broken, that we voted for, that our parents voted for. So no, you don't have to be a criminal just because you're poor. There were plenty of poor people across the world who live with honor, who live with honor, who die with honor, who were never rich people. This is why people need to go back to that Bible. That thing they say is a white man's religion, which really isn't. It was a whitewash religion because Jesus was a black man and we all know it.
They ain't got no religion. It all came from us.
Okay, but you got many black people out there who will say, as soon as I go to say Christianity or why you do white man's religion, white Jesus. Jesus wasn't white. I don't care what picture they put on him. We know who Jesus was. Right. But if you go back and you break open that Bible, it says it's easier for a camel to pass through the eye of a needle than it is for a rich man to get into heaven. We don't need to have money to start to repair and build the sacred honor we need to have to be a community.
Right.
Let me respond. Let me respond to that. And so we have to acknowledge, and I think you do. I think you do understand it. That this element that you're describing. First of all, You're correct. But the majority of the poor people in the American ghettos are not criminals, regardless to their circumstances.
Right.
The criminal element is a minority, even even within the ghettos. You know what I'm saying? But we still have to understand that the element that we're describing of the lack of honor, the lack of respect for human life, and the violence and the degradation that we see in our communities, this is a creation, this is a manufacturing that someone is responsible for. These people are victims of a failed, not a failed school system, but a targeted school system. They're being targeted with miseducation. They're being targeted with bad foods, poverty, all of these things that contribute to the mindset that produces the behavior patterns. You know what I'm saying? And like you said, the destruction of the Black family. You know what I'm saying? The welfare system and all of that stuff coming in. This is designed to happen. So it's not just something innately wrong with the Black people. They're responding to this environment that has been generationally passed down to them.
Wait. Let's be clear. I'm not saying that there's not a system that presides over us that has strategically targeted us.
I'm just saying we can't let them off the hook either. We could take self-accountability.
No, we shouldn't let them off the hook. That's exactly why I went to go run Republican, and not went to go run Republican to agree with all Republican politics, but to change the Republican Party, to be the new face of the Republican Party. And so, they targeted us. But why is it that none of our anger, none of our resentment and impulse politically is aimed towards those people?
Mine is.
Right.
But you see, now you're a minority.
Right. You're right about
because
that.
we vote 98%. We vote for the very people who instituted these policies that you're talking about.
Right.
Okay, so how can I look at let me go even deeper if I can. Again, yes, we are a victim of many social engineered policies and programs. But at the end of the day, every individual has to clarify their own will. They have to find power and hope within their own individual will. And as soon as you allow your victimizer, the person your perpetrator, to dictate the things you do in the future, to dictate the things that you decide to do with your own personal will and determination, you become them. That's why it was profound for the Bible to say, forgive your enemies, right? Because as soon as you harbor that hate, you become the very thing that you hate. And that's what the Black community has become. We become money hungry, false idol, absorbed, brainwashed followers. And when I say the criminal element, I'm not saying that all Black people or even a majority of Black people are criminals, because I know there's only 2 shooters in every crew, right? I come from the streets, right? So that's even amongst the criminals, there's only 2 shooters, okay? Yeah. That number's growing though. Actually now, because of the culture that we promote, more and more people are becoming the shooters. But there's a minority of people are criminals. But what do we as a community at large promote, accept, and buy? Mm-hmm. What do we buy? There are many people who do not adhere to a criminal lifestyle, but they still follow Cardi B. Right. And they don't mind when she says, I used to drug dudes and rob them. Right. I used to drug these dudes and I used to rob them. I used to get them set up. Right. And they at the club dancing to that. Well, that's a form of so if Donald Trump saying there were good people on both sides is a dog whistle for white supremacy, and now he is affirming all of the things that he didn't openly denounce, then are we criminals for the music that we glorify?
Right.
Are we criminals for the things that we allow other Black people to say and sit in a peanut gallery and clap all day? See, I'm starting to listen to rap music with a whole and mind you now, I'm a Young Dolph fan to the max. Rest in peace to Young Dolph. And he rapped about criminality. I just like the style. But if you ask me an honest question about the content of what he was rapping about, I got to bring that honesty. And so we fail as a community to distinguish ourselves when talking about the things and people who we admire and the details of the content and the creative work that they give us. Like LeBron, best basketball player of our generation, if not of all time. That don't mean he's not a sellout. And I can say both things. and young people need to hear both things.
I'm gonna have to disagree with the whole best basketball. I'm just not a fan.
You can't. You hate on LeBron on the court, off the court.
People say he's the best basketball player.
Okay. I grew up in the '90s. Mike is the best, but here's the thing. Mike's the best, but he was a sellout too.
Right.
So we ain't had a basketball player who is in question of being you know what, Kobe Bryant. I got a special place in my heart for Kobe because I feel like Kobe's the one guy who started to see what was going on and was making moves, certain strategic moves behind the curtains post-career to try and bring a whole different level to the conversation. Like, I think he was going to get out of that Nike deal. I think he was moving towards getting out of his Nike deal and doing his own thing. So again, let me go back to this real quick because I know y'all probably pressed for time or whatever. I'm not, but
we're not. We good, brother. We good.
What I'm saying is this: we got to go back to the fundamentals. And so when we think of America, many of us have been brainwashed to think of the slavery that came along with the foundation of this country. And yes, there was slavery. And yes, the people who took slaves also claimed in most cases to be Christians. And yes, that was taking the Lord's name in vain. That's not an indictment of God, and it's certainly not an indictment of Yeshua, Jesus Christ. That's an indictment of those people and the way they chose to use the faith to wage, genocide, persecution, oppression, whatever you want to call it. But again, that nuance is where black people and most people, not just black people, but black people, let's say,
dealing with us.
First priority. We lack that nuance. We've been pulled into a narrative where we have to be all for or all against something, and it goes right back to our own identity as Americans. We built the country. When you say FBA, the A is Americans. We are America. We are America. We helped build the country. So why would we want to say F America? Why would we? Right. And here's what I'm saying. That Constitution is separate from the men's sins who wrote it. The ideas in that Constitution, the ideas in the Declaration of Independence have a profundity that has intentionally been kept from black people all across this country, because if we knew what the implications were, we would have the legal basis to rise up and be the very community that all three of us want us to be. And that is this: we are a nation of shopkeepers. We are a nation that was built for the independent business owner, the entrepreneur, and the farmer. And we were given the Second Amendment so that we didn't have to depend on a government for our protection that could become tyrannical and leverage that security against us.
Exactly what
now, if 40 million, why is it that young black men all across the country are constantly going to jail for illegal firearms in a country where it's legal to own a gun? Why? Because we don't understand our rights. We don't understand our history. We don't understand the foundation of this country. If we walk back towards that Constitution, it's not walking back towards slavery. It's walking back towards freedom. It's walking back. And this is what Malcolm was saying. He said, we need to have our own communities. We need to, he was more of a separatist, mind you.
Absolutely.
But, and I have no problem. I have no problem with that. Black people are already separated. We live in projects and ghettos. We are separated. But he was talking about more of a legal sovereign separation. And that's fine. Black people can make that choice on their own. Pool your money. If you really want to do something, LeBron, if you really want to do something, Chris Paul or The Rock or Kevin Hart or Stephen A. or Oprah or, name one of these sellouts. Name one of these black bourgeois sellouts.
All of them with these dresses on. And all.
If you really want to do something, why haven't y'all pooled y'all's money and went and bought some land that's usually only about 40 minutes out from the city and start your own city, start your own municipality? And then you can hire your own police, and then you can have your own bank, and then you can have your own county jurisdiction. These are things that are actually available to us as American citizens. And you know what? To go even a step deeper, why don't you use the anti-Jews that are your middlemen now? Why don't you, if you're going to say, oh, they won't let black people buy that land. Oh, really, they won't? Okay, well, why don't you make one of your anti-Jew handlers be the face for the deal? Because they won't do it. Because they need you where you are.
Right.
You feel what I'm saying? So
I think a big part of it, man, is as a group, man, we don't really want the burden of freedom, the cost that comes with freedom, the responsibility that it takes to really be responsible for your own
accountability.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
We've become so comfortable with the oppressor being in charge and handling all of the heavy duty business, and we get to just turn up, you know what I mean, on the weekends and shit. We've become way too comfortable with our oppression.
But I thought we was bosses, because you have so many talking about how they a boss. I'm a boss, but you don't want to boss up for your community. You don't want to boss up and get yourselves out of poverty. Boss up, and that shows me that you a boss. You know what I'm saying? We hear Negroes.
But those people that you're talking about are really comfortable. They got a special spot on the plantation, so they're extremely comfortable. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of them look down on the black masses. A lot of them look down on the black masses, and they don't really want to. When you talk about that bourgeoisie mentality, they don't really want to be affiliated with a lot of us anyway. They happy to be with what my man calls the anti-Jews and all of them. You know what I mean? They feel special in those circles.
Think about this: $1.6 trillion is our GDP as black people in America. $1.6 trillion makes us the 8th richest nation in the world. But we still don't have any equity. Our equity is lower than ever before. We are the 8th richest nation in the world. Now that tells me that our priorities are off. That we don't understand. And you could say that this was strategically done to us, economic literacy and whatnot. But that's been done to white people too. I mean, white people have a failure of economic literacy. The middle class in white middle America, they've had a hammer dropped on them. I mean, that's what see, this is what we don't realize in the black community yet. Huh?
They still white though. So with whiteness comes a certain level of privilege. Although you in a middle America and you may not be up there with the other white folk, you still have this white card, this white privilege card. So you're
not being mass incarcerated. You're not being occupied by a militarized police. You know what I mean? Those type of things.
Let me say this. Okay, race is an issue. Nobody can deny that race is an issue. And nobody can deny this country's history. But what I will say is this. When you hear Hillary Clinton call white middle America the deplorables, understand that the slavery that was done to us and the social engineering that was done to us was a pilot. It was a pilot for a slavery and a welfare state that they planned to expand to all people. And in a minute, it's not going to matter whether you were white or black, because guess what? The white folks in the Trump movement, what did they have in common with black folks? We didn't take that vaccine. And guess what? You didn't take that vaccine, you was losing your job whether you were white or black. You understand how the evolution of racism changes to classism, and then it changes to elite technocracy. I'm just cautioning black people to understand that there's a bigger game being played here. And while we look across and see skin color and go, oh, whoa, I don't trust you white folks. There's actually white folks who are trying to reach their hand and go, no, we need y'all. And so that's what the Trump movement, despite what, again, Trump personally, flaws and all, that's what the Trump movement is actually trying to, they love me in the Trump movement. And I'm not no token Negro, and I don't hold my breath about the history of this country, and I don't hold my breath about the failures of the Republican Party. And they love it. They're like, yeah, we wish more black people would talk like this.
They respect honesty. Yeah, we see a lot of them in our circles as well. You know what I'm saying? And they tapped in, and they respect a black man with a backbone. You know what I'm saying? Not kowtowing and scratching when he don't itch and all of that. They do respect that.
Call me a nigger behind my back. See, we're so sensitive. We've been feminized, right? And that was strategically done. We've been emasculated. Ain't no black man supposed to be worried about whether no white man's calling him a nigger behind closed doors.
Yeah,
and if a white man calls you a nigger in person to your face, then you should deal with that. Okay, and you should take the consequences that come with that, because that's what having sacred honor is about. And a man's sacred honor is something that only he can define, measure, and lay the boundary around and make those decisions in real time based on the situation. But ain't no white person came up and called me no nigger at no Republican MAGA event. They come up with respect. They say, God bless the work you're doing. We pray that the black community wakes up and stops letting these Democrats convince them to abort their babies.
Right.
Stop letting these white folks convince you to kill the future of your own race. That's the racism, and we don't support that. And the counter argument is what? Okay, but if those people get in charge, then they're going to enslave you. That's what our Second Amendment is for.
But my thing is, they also tell
when white people want to re-enslave black people, there will need to be another civil war of about freedom, and we should be ready for that. What we shouldn't do is go, you know what? Let's just give it to the Democrats, and we'll become the wage slaves of an economic elite. That's not a reasonable solution.
Go ahead, nice. Go ahead, nice.
No civil war. You got Negroes out here in dresses and emasculated. You got Saucy Santana. You know what I'm saying? All over Instagram with a BBL, booty bouncing, and this is the representation of what manhood is at this point.
Look, Master J, what was it? Grandmaster J? Grandmaster J just got sentenced to 7 years in prison from the NFAC. How many black people out there protesting that?
Not me. Not me. I'll tell you that.
But I don't really know all of the politics of Grandmaster Jay, but what I like is that he understood and tried to convey the fundamental value of the Second Amendment. And that is a crucial value to American freedom. Understand this, the reason why the globalist agenda hasn't taken over yet, the reason why we're already not being put in education camps or re-education camps like the Muslims in China is because we have 400 million guns. Because the reason there's also a luxury that we have in terms of military advantage.
When you say that, you're talking about Americans, though. You're not talking about black people. You're just talking about Americans.
No, I'm talking about black people too.
Also, we're Americans. We're Americans.
Yeah. But yeah, just Americans in general.
Yeah.
The Second Amendment is why we enjoy the freedom that is. See, we think that the Second Amendment is something that Republicans are trying to push on us. So, there can be more school shootings because they don't care about the children. Meanwhile, we abort our children. It's crazy. But actually, the Democrats, and not just the Democrats, but the uniparty, which also includes many Republicans, would already have a level of governance that would seem like slavery to us if it wasn't for our Second Amendment. And we don't even understand that the Second Amendment is protecting our freedom like that, because for some reason, I guess, we don't believe that there's actually tyrannical government.
No, I get it. I get it. I live in Georgia. I'm from New York, but I live in Georgia. It's a red state. It's a lot of white folks out here, MAGA white folks out here. And I understand that I'm safer around these parts than in some of these liberal cities and places that's ran by these Democrats and all of that. Because these white people ain't having it. These white people ain't having it. The government get too turned up. These white people is coming outside with their guns and they're gonna shut the shit down. You know what I'm saying? And so I understand what you're saying when you talk about the globalism and how, in a minute it's not really going to be about color. You know what I'm saying? But it still boils down to white supremacy for me. And what you're describing is that evil contains within itself the seed of its own destruction. So it doesn't just stop with black people. And so like you said, we're the model for how they want to operate, period. They want the whole globe to be a plantation and with just the elites that have the big house, you know what I'm saying, with those elites. And so I get that, but it's still a matter of us as black people, and particularly black Americans, foundational black Americans, rising up to take our position, because we're what makes the globe go round. Whatever we do, whether it's progressive or whether it's something of degradation, it makes the world go round. We set the trends for everything. And so when we rise up and take our respectable positions in society, You know what I'm saying? Whatever that may look like, you know what I'm saying? It looks different to you than it does for me as far as reparations and all of that, and separatism and all of that stuff. Whatever that may look like, when we rise up and take our respectable positions in society, all of those people are going to follow suit. All of those people are going to follow suit because it's who we are on a spiritual level.
And let's take it to this level. America's destiny relies upon Black people taking their rightful place.
That's what I'm trying to say. You said it better.
And I'm not saying the survival of the nation, because the nation will survive. The question is, will it be America?
Right.
Right. The same. How poetic is it that the destiny of this country largely lies upon those of us that were slaves?
Right.
Right. That's poetic, and I think right now we've reached a level where there are powers and forces above us that plan to expand the model to a broader range of people, and that broader range of people feels that they feel that coming, and so now they're looking across to see if there's a racial reconciliation that can happen out of survival. And we should be open to that racial reconciliation, even if it is just out of survival.
Is there enough of them, though? Is there enough of them? Is it to have an allyship? Allyship, it can't be a few individuals here and there to form real allyship. Is there enough of them for us to really take it serious?
Enough of who?
The people that you're talking about who are now looking for that camaraderie because they understand that what's been done to us is now headed their way.
I would say the people that I'm talking about, the America First movement, which they say is racist, but it really just says, stop sending our money over to the Ukraine.
They might be racist, but that don't got nothing to do with their agenda.
That don't got nothing to do. It don't have nothing to do with the net positive for us as Black people. So what I'm saying is that whether or not there's a lot of them, the political objective is aligned with what we want fundamentally. So many of us say. Now, I would go to argue, when you actually put these things down on paper, we're going to find out that many more people don't want what they say they want. Many more people, in their lack of understanding, have no clue what's actually being proposed. And when they get the real proposition, you're going to see some people who you love and care about show a whole different side of themselves, because that's how the game goes.
I agree with that.
But what I can say for sure is that we right now in this country have the potential. Let's just use the election, for example. Black people think that their political power is minimal, like Malcolm said. But we are looking at a Senate that has a 50-50 split in one runoff Senate race in Georgia. And the vote came down to 30,000 votes. Now, why are these Black, so they say it came down to 30,000 votes. So why are Black people not coming together right now to revive what Ice Cube tried to do and go to the Republican establishment and say, here's the reparations package that we would like, and if you promise us these things, we will deliver you Georgia in the Senate? Why is that not happening? Why is the LeBrons and the all of the Black dudes? Because they're in on it. They're good with it.
I say forget them, though. I say forget them. What you're talking about needs to be done on a grassroots level. The grassroots need to be bringing that agenda to the political.
I'm already doing it. I'm talking to the Republican establishment. The problem is that the Republican leadership, Mitch McConnell, McCarthy, these type of people, they're rhinos. These people are Republicans in name only. They're really Democrats. So there's no talking to them because their goal is not to actually win. We seem to have a mistaken belief about the goals, and it's just like in our sports. We really, Black people are sweet, in our hearts. We make up 45% of the NBA viewership, right? And we really in our hearts believe that each NBA franchise wants to win. I mean, we're just so gullible. It's crazy.
Don't do us like that.
Everybody don't want to win. Everybody don't want to win. Some people are put there as controlled opposition, and they're given a nice payoff to maintain and safeguard that position. And that's who the Republican establishment is right now. And so when I say I'm going to talk to the Republican establishment, I'm not going to talk to Mitch McConnell and Kevin McCarthy. I'm trying to put a message into Donald Trump's mind about 2024 and say, if you really want to win, if we really want to change the face of this country, I need you to understand that black people is where you can go to get these inner city votes delivered, but it's going to come at a cost. And you know that because you make deals. We know what it is. This is politics. This is money. This is business. There's a deal that can be made where black people can service their own interests to deliver power and control of this country to a certain party. And if we're scared to do that politically, then just get your Dr. Fauci butt plug ready. Get your jumpsuit ready, get the number ready, because you're going to the gulags. Right. Okay. In a minute, you black folks who didn't want to take that vaccine, back in January, they did a poll where 67% of Democrats said that unvaccinated people should be locked in their homes. Right. What does that sound like?
Right. That sounds like that damn show from Netflix.
That sounds like we're gonna lock you Negroes up. The same people who are arguing for prison reform, same people who are arguing for inclusion in the universities. We about to lock you Negroes up if you don't get vaccinated, though. Right. We promise you that. You dirty Negroes, we're gonna lock y'all up.
That shit crazy. That goes back to what I was saying about being in this red state. We ain't gotta deal with that type of shit.
Yep.
Well, I'm in LA, so
let me ask you this, bro.
On every level. Yeah. I'm in LA. I'm dealing with it on every level.
Exactly. But let me ask you this, because
the abortion agenda, the immigrant problem, like it's coming at us all angles.
Yeah, you already know California most of the time is ground zero for a lot of the bullshit.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? But I agree with what you're saying about a lot of the benefits that we as black people get just subsequently from a lot of the Republican policies. You know what I'm saying? We have a lot of things in common as far as our values and our morals on a basic level. You know what I'm saying? And so there are a lot of benefits there. Now, this MAGA crowd that you're talking about, this is where I get confused with some of your politics. And so what I want you to talk about is, how do you reconcile like being involved with somebody like a Steve Bannon, you know what I'm saying, and being pro-black? Like, that don't go together to me.
Steve Bannon is pro-black.
What? Okay, I will let you explain.
Have you seen the 2-hour PBS Frontline special of Steve Bannon?
I have not.
No, I've seen him.
I want you to go back. We're gonna do another podcast in a week or so. I want you to go and watch the 2-hour PBS special of Steve Bannon talking about the inception, or talk about the genesis of Donald Trump and the MAGA movement. And when you come back, we'll have an extended conversation about what you saw in that documentary and what was being said. What I will say is this.
What's the name of it?
What Steve Bannon did for the Donald Trump campaign was he reoriented the priority of the issues on the table. When politicians come to run for office, there's a list of issues that have a quantity to them based on demographic, and that's listed from 1 to 100. Okay. Our black sister right here says that immigration is one of her top issues, right?
And abortion.
And Steve Bannon is the reason that immigration went from number 10 on the list to number 2 on the list. And what went to number 1 was trade. That's the work of Steve Bannon. So when you hear them go after Steve Bannon, the reason why they're really going after him is because if black people actually took the time to listen to him and understood what he was saying, they'd be more politically empowered than ever. When I listened to him, I was already in that area because of what I dealt with the NBA. So I saw the corporate elites for what they were. But Steve Bannon came from Wall Street. He worked at Goldman Sachs. Yeah. So he saw how the money was siphoned off and funneled from a quantitative financial expertise. And that's what he brought to politics. I don't know where people get off saying he's a white supremacist. He literally went in front of his audience. Hold on, this is people who are using white supremacy as a boogeyman, and they've never actually met any Nazis. Let me tell you something about Nazis. Nazis don't make any exceptions for blacks or Jews based on their own ambitions. That's not real, because a Nazi believes that they don't need any unclean, unworthy folks to exact their agenda. They believe in their own ability to exact and execute their agenda. So a Steve Bannon, if he was a real Nazi or white supremacist, he would not go out in front of his audience every day that was taken off of YouTube strategically by the big technocrats that mean to put a chip in your arm. Let's be clear. Okay, he was deplatformed by them. He would not go out in front of that audience every day to this day and say Black and Hispanic men are the future of this populist movement. And Royce White is the future of the Republican Party. He wouldn't say that if he was a genuine white supremacist. Now, I don't even know what things he said that has people believing that he's a white supremacist, other than he's associated with Donald Trump, and Donald Trump has said some things where you're like, hold on, bro, you can't, hold on, what you mean by that, right?
Not
like,
just Trump, but Breitbart itself.
Oh, Breitbart, look. Andrew Breitbart was a genius. Okay, now you talk up. Now you talk.
I don't know Andrew Breitbart. I'm talking about the outlet, the media outlet Breitbart. I don't know much
what
about.
I'm telling you is,
I don't know much about the founder.
You gotta go back. You have to go back, and you have to actually go find these people and listen to the things that they're saying. Now that we see the agenda starting to make its way to the surface, because even when Donald Trump first hit the scene, my first instinct was this. I don't know too much about him. I don't really like the show. What was the show? The Apprentice and whatnot. He seems like a kind of an asshole businessman. But this stuff he's saying about these Washington D.C. elites, I know that's true. That 100% true. Right. And I like that he's saying that the media is the biggest weapon against the American. I like that. I know that China is the dragon in the East, and that in 2050 they plan to run the whole world. And the 2 million Muslims that are in concentration camps are going to be 100 million people that are getting killed in gas chambers. I know that. So I like those things. But there were times where he said stuff and I'm like, I don't know if I deal with that. But guess what? I'm a strong Black man. I can disagree with these people. And like the picture you show with the Black folks putting their hands on Donald Trump, white supremacists don't let Black people do that. We have a watered down version of white supremacy. No. Adolf Hitler, you ain't seen no pictures with Adolf Hitler with a group of Black folks hovering.
Let me jump in, brother. You're describing white extremists. Okay. What's this dude's name that's in the White House right now?
Joe Biden.
Joe Biden is a white supremacist. He let Black people put his hands on him. I'm not confused about what white supremacy is over here. I don't let them boogeyman Donald Trump as being that's where the racism is. The right wingers.
I don't get the question about Steve Bannon then. Steve Bannon, all Steve Bannon is really said.
Steve Bannon platformed a lot of neo-Nazis. You know, they was down with all of that. What's unite the right and all of that type of shit.
Yeah, what's wrong with uniting the right?
Ain't nothing wrong with uniting the right, but they have some anti-Black views. Those people that were running that, according to them. Jared Taylor. What's that other young white boy's name?
Oh my God.
The young white boy's name. He was admitted card-carrying white supremacist.
I can't even think of his name right now.
I don't know. If you tell me, I'm not saying that they're not. All I'm saying is
Turning Point. All of these people, those people that fund Candace Owens and all of that stuff.
Candace Owens is Black.
I know she's Black. What does that mean?
She's not Black.
No, I mean they're white supremacists. What makes them white supremacists?
They're anti-Black views for the most part.
What are the anti-Black views?
They believe that they believe in white supremacy, that the white race is superior, and that everyone else, not just Black people, but especially Black people. Oh, I've been over here. See, this is what I'm saying. I'm the type of dude where if you tell me it's racist over in the room, that I'm gonna go in there and see. I want to hear it. And that's cool. That's cool. I'm not a person that has a problem with that. Elijah Muhammad sat down with the
I'm over here. And I don't hear these. I don't ever hear these views. I don't ever hear people say, "Oh, we believe the white race is superior." Now, if you're talking about like Gab, let's say Gab, for example, as a social media platform. If you go on Gab, you will see people who identify as conservatives say things like, "Don't put any more Black people in office," or "Blacks or Jews will not replace us." I'm not saying that. They say that in the left wing. The Spanish people was just saying that over there in California. True. But all I'm saying is this. I talk to Steve Bannon almost every day. We talk on a regular basis. Okay. The man is not a white supremacist. And we're talking politics, and we're talking groups of people who say they have certain views, and then that makes everybody who's associated with them a white supremacist. Then LeBron James is a pedophile because he stood up on stage with Hillary, and Hillary was married to Bill, and Bill was flying around with Epstein. Does that make sense?
No, that doesn't make sense. But
I know it don't make sense.
But you might still be guilty if you co-signing that shit. If you know what I mean. If you know what's going on and you're not willing to expose it, then yeah.
Well, he does know. Does he not know that Hillary and Bill were cool with Epstein?
I'm not defending LeBron on that. I'm not defending LeBron on that.
What I'm saying is, where I'm at, for me as an individual, I wouldn't even make the claim. I wouldn't even bring that into the conversation about LeBron, because there are certain views and certain things that individuals say that are so outside the box that certain people aren't warranted to give it like LeBron's not I mean, loosely, he's associated with that because they're very clear about their platform. That's why they want to march a 35-year-old man with breasts and a crop top and hair on his back in to read to your children, right? So there is sort of a LGBTQ pedophile sort of motif going on in Democrat and left politics.
Wait, I missed something. What does that have to do with LeBron? I missed something right there.
Well, I'm just saying, ain't D Wade his boy?
Yeah.
Ain't D Wade his close friend? Ain't the little boy changing his name and they trying to put the boy on testosterone blocker so he could grow a vagina overnight?
I don't know what goes on in real life, but I don't see them hanging too tough anymore. I don't see them hanging too tough these days.
Okay, you don't see it. Once a banana boat, always a banana boat. But that's just me. I'm just saying. But my point is, and it ain't no knock. Look, it's not even about LeBron. The reason I bring people up like LeBron is because we give these people, not you, but we as a community give these people a pass for all of their moral flaws and shortcomings and everything that they do or say they'll do and then don't do and don't stand up to. But then we let the CNN tell us that Steve Bannon's a white supremacist when really he's trying to come and give black people as much information as possible to make our own decision for ourselves. And again, if somebody who, it's like when they said, well, all Republicans, all people who support Donald Trump aren't racist, but all racists support Donald Trump, or something like that. That was a saying, something like that.
I'm not worried about those people.
Say what?
I'm not worried about those people.
Does Steve Bannon support reparations? A good question.
Steve and I had a conversation the other day about reparations. He said he was thinking about how. See, Steve is a political strategist. So Steve is thinking about things from a lens of what needs to be done and how can it get done.
Does he still have sway with some of the politicians over there, that MAGA crowd and all that? Does he still have sway with them?
Steve Bannon is the
I know his name is kind of muddy right now in the media.
No, his name's not muddy.
In the media, he said. In the
media, I'm talking about.
Yeah. Look at the source. I mean, who do people think MSNBC is? Who do people think Fox News is, for example? I mean, these media companies are owned by 6 companies.
Right.
This is the system. This is the media industrial complex. Anybody who the media industrial complex tells you is the enemy, you should probably go listen to them at depth to make sure that what they're saying is something you need to hear.
I'll be honest. I've seen Steve Bannon talk to a room full of black people. I forgot what that one dude's name is. Who organized everything with it. But I didn't disagree with damn near nothing he said in that whole address. I will say that. He was talking about economics specifically for black people. He was saying black and Spanish, but he was talking about economics. And I was agreeing with damn near everything he said during that address. And so I'm gonna check out the documentary that you recommended also.
I'll say this in good faith, what I'm saying to you, and I promise you this. Steve Bannon is the unequivocal leader of the MAGA movement right now.
I agree with that.
This is why they tried to put him in jail. See, people don't even see what's going on because we only read headlines that come to us on Snapchat through an algorithm.
He still might go to jail though, right? Is that not correct? He still might go to jail?
It's possible. It's going to take I think because the House flipped Republican, we'll see what happens. But I just implore people to go listen to these people who they say that you shouldn't listen to, because when I did that myself personally, what I found was, oh, these people are just like me. These people were intentionally taken out off of the stage, out in front of the podium, and had their mic snatched and their spotlight turned off for a very specific reason, because the information that they have is valuable to a people who are by and large still asleep at the wheel. That's who Steve Bannon is. Now, I don't know, like, I was asked a question by the Washington Post about Nick Fuentes, right? And they were like, well, Nick Fuentes said this, or Nick Fuentes. I don't know Nick Fuentes. We ain't over here having roundtable discussions with every single person who's ever had a conservative view. I stand on my views in the public square in front of all the conservatives. And like I tell the black folks, like I said earlier, I'm not selling you no used car. I'm gonna tell you the way I see it. You can either like it, not like it, take it, use it, or disregard it as bullshit. But what I'm not gonna do is lie to you, black people, or any white supremacists who might be over there hiding as a Republican. What I will tell you is this: it is my view that many of the extreme forms of the far right are actually security state operations. That the security state, the NSA, the CIA, fund the far right to keep this boogeyman out there in the same way they were funding terrorism in the Middle East.
And then blame it on Russia.
Let's get down to the nitty gritty.
And then blame it on Russia. Is that what's going on? They say that's the Russian collusion.
How many out of all the white people you've met, how many Nazis have you actually met?
Listen, it's a lot to cover, man. We got to start winding this down. I want to say this to you. I want to say this to you because it seems like you would encourage black people to take a look at the Republican Party, consider what they have to offer. Is that accurate?
No. What I would do is I would say black people have to find God, and if we don't find God, we need to find a higher moral, a higher ethic, some way, somehow. I would subscribe God, but it could be Allah, it could be Yahweh, it could be a number of things.
Righteousness.
We got to find a higher ethic. We got to find some sacred honor. We got to find some national honor. We have to realize that this country was built by us, and we can't go nowhere else because Africa's getting recolonized by China, and the Chinese don't like black people.
We ain't trying to
so we don't like black Americans. Right. So
this our country. We home.
Right. So, and with that being said, no, they shouldn't. They shouldn't revolt for anybody in blind faith. What they should do is they should try and sort out the values that they hold true, and match their political vote to those values. But they will have to do some extended research because, by and large, the media has a huge liberal tilt. So much so that the Republican representation you get in the media is actually controlled by the liberal establishment.
It's still liberal. That's a fact.
Yeah, so I would say, again, let's say this. Go do your homework. Go look into these people. First, figure out what it is you really believe in so that you can even make a real decision and not just be a puppet. But once you figure out what you believe in and you go find those people and listen to them, then you got to ask yourself, okay, am I voting? Why am I voting Republican? And then you got to understand that the Republican, right now we're having a civil war in the Republican Party. You got the MAGA crowd versus the establishment Republicans versus the old guard versus the rhinos versus Daddy Bush and the entire neocon establishment. So when you come into the Republican side, don't think that it's just one hegemony, because it ain't. It's going down over here. It's about to be a knife fight over here in the Republican side. So, there's a lot of different things going on politically. But what I will say is, if we're going to vote freedom, if we're going to vote for independent business ownership, then you can't vote Democrat, because every independent business owner, every single man, woman, and child is going to be fit for a chip. They're going to be fit for a chip, and they will not be able to move up an economic ladder. That's communism, folks. And there's one thing I can say about these Republicans, whether they're Nazis or not, they're not
ain't with that. Yeah, they ain't with that.
That's what I was just going to say, though. So what we need to be focusing on more than party, right? Take the Democrat and Republican out of it, policies, right? Our
agenda
compass falls more in line with that party.
That's
it just
true.
is what it is.
It just, and you know what, the history, and so what black people really need to do first and foremost to understand the politics of the day is they need to go listen to a guy like Steve Bannon and understand how the political parties have come to be where they are today. Right now, most of your political black voices, like Sean King, right, dudes like this.
Black?
Well, I mean, he's just as black as me, right? So I mean, I'm pretty like myself, but people like him, they went to go get their history of political formation from the liberal institutions. Yeah. So it has a bent an agenda to it. But if you really go back and understand the inception of the post-World War II democratic liberal order, the Civil Rights Act, and Nixon and Kissinger's onboarding of globalism, then you'll start to understand who the uniparty is today and why the Republican movement that is MAGA, that people try and say is the white supremacy. Every day, more and more blacks and Hispanics are coming into the movement because they're having the veil pulled off their eyes. They're like,
been doing that.
They're like, whoa, hold on. You saying we should have more jobs? You're saying that we should have more ownership? You're saying that we shouldn't have to take a vaccine and experiment? You're saying that we shouldn't have to have trans story hour at our schools? We like this. We with that.
Damn sure do. We like all that.
You can call me and you calling me a nigger or a spick in private with your other white buddies ain't changing the fundamental reality of this country. That's for y'all to do. I mean, that don't have nothing to do with me. That don't affect me.
Right. I agree with that. Man. And so, all right, before we go, obviously I want you to plug your book or anything else that you got coming up, because this is the Black Business Showcase, contrary to
right.
Conversation with, you know what I'm saying? Anything that you want to plug that you do got coming up, I want you to do that. But quickly, I want to say to, the Republican Party and Steve Bannon, if you're listening, in the beginning, we started off with that clip from Malcolm X, and he talked about how the minority in black society are the ones who are running out voting, for the most part. And they're the ones that have been supporting the Democratic Party for the last going on 60 years or whatever the case may be. But there's a bunch of us, the black masses, who have been disengaged. But we're looking now, we're taking a look at the political spectrum, and we have an ask. And we want reparations, we want we want economic empowerment specifically for foundational black Americans. So if you want to watch a block that's just sitting dormant, you know what I'm saying, to come and support you guys, you need to start talking economics specifically for foundational black Americans, and you will see a big movement rise up in your favor. So I just want to say that, you know what I'm saying, to the right wingers out there. We're open to you. Don't think all of us are just stuck on the Democratic train. We're open to you. So holla at us. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, brother, what you got coming up? Anything that you want to plug as far as sales? I know you got merch and stuff like that on your website. Let me pull your site up real quick. I mean,
yeah, don't even put it. That's my campaign site, and my Congress campaign is now closed. Okay. I'll be making announcements about my political future here in the next weeks to come, now that the election and the midterms are over. So, we got a podcast that's going to be starting called, it's under the banner Free People Radio. And we got a number of different podcasts coming through that. So you can just stay tuned to social media in order to see updates about that. Other than that, I just want people to, my podcast is called, is Please Call Me Crazy. But I want people to pay close attention to three significant stories right now. The FTX collapse, okay, and the $100 million that were sent to Democrats and campaign donations in this midterm, and ask ourselves, are our elections actually free and fair if they're using Ponzi scheme money to fund Democrats? The two top Democrat donors for the midterms were George Soros and this kid that ran the FTX Ponzi. FTX. Okay, so George Soros is a Hungarian Jew who bragged about going door to door during the Holocaust with the Nazis and taking stuff from the Jews and said, I didn't feel any way about it at all because I was too young.
But he's not anti-Semitic?
He's a Jew, so he can't be anti-Semitic, I would say, but he definitely seems to be anti-Jew. So, you know, that's an important story. Also watch the Federal Reserve and the move because of XTX to institute a federal digital currency and to regulate cryptocurrency, because one may be actually connected to the other. The attempt to use the FTX story as a justification to regulate crypto so that it further takes the economic power away from the people and gives it back to the government in the new crypto space. And third and foremost, go look at the vaccine injury reports that have been smothered and been buried under all of this other media, and free my brother Kyrie Irving.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Free Kyrie. And yeah, I did want to talk more about that too with the vaccine stuff, but we'll get into that next time.
I have a question for him too. Have you heard of Marcel Dixon, who ran against Clyburn out in South Carolina?
No.
Okay.
I should know the name. If I saw the face, maybe. Okay. Ran where, in South Carolina?
South Carolina, he ran.
Against the civil rights bourgeois sellout stalwart Jim Clyburn.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. No, I didn't pay too much close attention to Dixon down there. I knew of the race, but I just assumed Clyburn is going to win because, again, people are attached to that nostalgia of the civil rights. That's a prime example. I'm glad you said that. Jim Clyburn is the ultimate sellout.
Right. And his daughter is the head of the Democratic Party in that state. So isn't that a conflict of interest?
Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy stuff. Mm-hmm. Crazy stuff. And I was going to ask, have you had any contact, any conversations with Reza Islam?
I can't really speak on that. You know, what I will say is shout out to my brother Reza. I think he's a smart brother. I appreciate his work. I appreciate the things he brings to the conversation. It's not by accident. Again, here's a prime example. It's not by accident that you see people who they say are extremists on the left and extremists on the right both get the same treatment from the middle. And that's Rizzo on the, you know, he's one of the most banned guys on the internet. Same as Bannon, same as Alex Jones. Who else did they ban the day that they banned Alex Jones, if you remember? Minister Louis Farrakhan. That's right. So, you know, me and Rizzo had have a lot in common. And I hope to be able to speak to him more and to keep building.
That would be a very interesting conversation when you get your podcast popping. I think you should reach out and get him on. Riz
is one of those bright young stars in the country. I think he has a bright future in saving this country. Whether or not that's the goal or the motivation of the nation is for them to decide. But I think if he and they decide to go in that direction and put their hands on the political, that the minister and Malcolm and Elijah Muhammad and people like Rizza have the chance to actually save this country.
No doubt. All right, so we can do the last two questions now, Nicety.
Oh, okay.
Cast fashion, end this thing off.
What does freedom and power mean to you?
Oh, I gotta hear this.
Yeah.
Freedom is, I describe freedom in a you know, because I mean I'm a Catholic, right? So you know I'm a Christian. I got that affinity with the Trinity and stuff. So I describe freedom as three distinct things: the freedom of movement, the freedom of economy, and the freedom of representation. And those three things make up what I would call American sovereignty, as it was meant to be by our foundational documents, the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, which was inspired by God, which says that human beings have free will, that our lives are not predetermined and are not meant to be governed men by men, but men to God. So my idea of freedom goes straight back to my Christian roots and my biblical principles. Power, you know, power is a man's game. You know, power is something that we fool ourselves with here on earth. The real power lies in the heavens. The real power lies in the eternal. The real power lies with Satan. It's just power that won't win in the end. But you know, power is something that we fool ourselves with when we lack humility.
Last word, man. This is the part I put you on the Summer Jam screen. and you got the microphone. The entire Black community is listening. What parting words do you want to leave us with tonight, brother?
Sacred honor. You know, sacred honor is the word or the phrase of the day. I think we have to look past the history that we've passed down, the generational chaos and the generational curses and trauma that we live with. We have to be strong enough and courageous enough to lay that down in pursuit of something greater. If we say we want something greater, if we say we want something better, courage. It takes courage to get that. It takes courage to have that. And much of the courage, like it is with anybody, Black or not, is that man in the mirror. The man in the mirror is the person that you have to face first. And right now, as a community, we have to face the mirror first. And right now, when we look in the mirror, if we don't honestly say that we see a reflection that has become overly obsessed and overly reliant upon government and overly reliant upon material goods in order to feel worthy, in order to feel human, in order to feel alive, then we're lying to ourselves. And we can't lie to ourselves if we claim to be a community and if we claim to want something better for that community. Right now is one of the most pivotal moments in American history and the history of the modern world and in the history of the Black community. And a lot of it is going to be anchored upon us. But what we can't do is we cannot create any scapegoats or excuses from people who have been propped up by the same system that you all say oppress us. If LeBron James was given $1 billion, it came with strings attached, and we all know that, and there's a bunch of other people like him. I'm not singling them out. I'm not picking on them. I was asked a question about LeBron, and anytime I'm asked a question about any of these sellouts, I'm going to speak the truth to it as so far as I know it. And if LeBron is out there somewhere and he's listening, it's not a fixed position. He can come back. He can come back and repent. He can come back and throw down his chains. He can come back and say, the money ain't good enough for me anymore. I need something deeper. I need something better. I need to be more than an athlete. And a lot of us should follow if he decides to do that. But like the Minister Louis Farrakhan said, when you don't have that knowledge that makes you a real man, you become a glorified punk. And I can honor that. I can sympathize with that. I agree with that 100%. That was wise words from the minister that all Black people need to hear and understand.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed, man. All right, man. We appreciate you, brother, man. This has definitely been one of the most explosive episodes of the Black Business Showcase. You know what I mean? This is one for the books, man.
Homework. We have our homework, so we're going to watch the 2-hour PBS Steve Bannon Genesis of Donald Trump. So we have our homework. So our next meeting, we can chop it up about that and other topics.
Godspeed to y'all. I love y'all, man. I appreciate the time. For real. Thank you.
No doubt, man. And to the loyal family, the B1 Brigade out there, to the listeners, man, we're not going to always agree with everybody on every single point, but I think it's important for us not to minor in the majors and to look at the important things that we do have in common and things that we can agree on and work together on and try to build, you know what I'm saying? Not try to build, but strive to build, you know what I'm saying? Because we're not all going to think the same. We're not all going to have the same strategy, but we got the same goals in mind, you know what I'm saying? And so, yeah, this was great, man. But I hope we get them back on soon, man. We'll do this again sometime. Appreciate everybody tapping in with us. What we got, Nicely Girl, man, before we get out of here?
Next week, we don't have anybody. Next week, he said he coming back.
We got Brown Skin Baddie.
Oh, shit. My bad. So forgive me. That just happened tonight, y'all. So
yeah,
that just happened tonight on our IG Live. So next week, we're going to introduce you guys to our sister. Some of y'all met her tonight on Sincere's Live, but we're going to have Brown Skin Baddie on next Wednesday, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And you guys are going to get to know my co-host for the new show, the PLANDEMIC. I hope you guys are excited. I am super stoked. I don't usually talk this much, if y'all notice, but I think it's just something about her energy. I think that we're just going to definitely, it's just going to be good. It's just going to be good, and I know it. And I'm super excited for those of you who have not met her to meet her. over here in these YouTube streets.
Yeah. She's so excited. She ain't even tell y'all what the hell she talking about. So for the people that don't know.
I said the Pick Me Godcast.
Yeah, but I mean, you got to explain a little bit for people who don't know. Some people already know what you're talking about.
Y'all gonna come back here next Wednesday, and y'all gonna meet the new co-host for the new show. We gonna talk about what it's gonna be.
That's what I'm saying. The new show. Some people don't even know it's a new show. We got a new show. We got a new show, a new bi-weekly series that's going to be hosted by nyctegur, co-hosted by Brown Skin Baddie, who y'all going to get to meet next week. Wednesday. Same channel, same time, next Wednesday. We're going to interview her so you guys can get to know her a little bit before we officially launch the Pick Me Godcast, which is the new series presented to you by SincereluvdagodCast.
Right.
So I put my producer cap on with that one. I'm not going to be on it. It's just going to be the ladies. I'm going to be tuning in. Hopefully all of y'all tune in. You know what I'm saying? Tell a friend. It's going to be on and popping. Other than that, y'all already know, check us out Sunday for our weekly broadcast, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 1 p.m. Pacific Time. We're going to be talking about current events and other important issues. We're going to get back to the other important issues too. We've been last couple of weeks, we've been dealing with the Kanye, Kyrie, anti-Semitic debacle. But we had to cover it. It was a lot to cover. It's a lot, and it still might be more to cover because now they on Chappelle and all of this shit too. And so, but we're gonna get to the current events as well. So make sure y'all tune in for that. And stay tuned, man. We got a lot of stuff going on, man. We got our children's book that we're working on. That's coming along. You know what I mean? We getting through with that. I'm very proud of the progress that we've made. Since we came up with the idea, like we made a lot of progress. We getting there. We getting there with the book. So.
I mean, like I did not fathom or even dream, right, that doing this podcast 1 year ago is going to start another podcast, right, with our sister Baddie, on totally
Baskin Brownie.
Y'all know I get tongue tied, but that, and now I get to add author, to my resume. So there's just so many wonderful things that's coming about because of y'all tuning in. We hit our 1,000 subs. Thank you guys so much for that. We do appreciate everybody. Make sure if you have not subscribed, you're just here and watch, please hit the subscribe and notification bells. That does help get us in the algorithm.
Yep. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed, man. And so, man, that's it. That's it, man. Y'all stay tuned. Me and my brother DJ RP Beats, we got the music coming.
Master's Tape.
December 2nd, we are opening up for Killer Priest out here in Stone Mountain at the Atrium in Stone Mountain. Me and DJ RP Beats will be opening up for Killer Priest at the Atrium in Stone Mountain on December 2nd. You can get your tickets on Eventbrite. I don't got the link ready right now. Hit me up if you're in the Atlanta area, you're trying to come out to the show. Hit me up on the DM on Instagram, and I'll send you the link to the Eventbrite so you can buy your tickets. That's coming up December 2nd. We will be in the building. It's going to be lit. And so stay tuned for the new music. Stay tuned for the new book. Stay tuned for the new Godcast. It's all coming very soon. We working. All right. And so that does it for today's episode of the Black Business Showcase. Appreciate everybody tuning in. Remember, family, we are not the master teachers, but we are the master students and signal boosters for the voices of the new Black media. And with that being said, we out of here, family. Peace and Black love.
Most resilient, we poster children of prophecy fulfillment. We gotta be God's children.